This video was brought to you by Henson Shaving. In late January, after months of infighting, Norway's centre-left governing coalition finally collapsed. This probably doesn't come as a surprise to many in Norway, as the government, led by Labour Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre, had grown increasingly unpopular over the past couple of years due to scandals and infighting. And a recent dispute over energy even caused the anti-EU Centre Party to exit the government a few weeks ago. However, since the collapse of Store's coalition, there seems to have been a renewed optimism in some parts of the Norwegian left, and some early polls have even shown a major boost for Labour, with the party able to reset as a Labour-only minority government. So in this video, we'll explain why Norway's coalition collapsed, the recent energy debate, and whether Store's new cabinet can recover before the next parliamentary election. We're getting remarkably close to 1 million subscribers, and currently 72% of you haven't yet subscribed. So lend us a hand and subscribe today. First though, let's take a look at some recent political context. At the last parliamentary election in 2021, the centre-left Labour Party finished first with 26.3% of the vote share, followed by the centre-right Conservative Party with 20.5%. In third was the agrarian anti-EU Centre Party with 13.6% of the vote. In fourth was the right-wing Progress Party with 11.7%, and in fifth was the left-wing anti-EU Socialist Left Party with 7.6%. Following their victory, Labour set about forming a government, which Støre initially wanted to do with both the Centre Party and the Socialist Left Party. However, the Socialist Left Party decided to withdraw from talks due to disagreement over climate and welfare issues. The Centre Party, meanwhile, was clear from the start that it just wanted a Labour-centre coalition, and not the broader coalition that Støre wanted. And ultimately, it was a Labour-centre minority government that ended up forming. Anyway, over the next few years, it became clear that a Labour-centre coalition had different perspectives on the issue of energy. For context, Norway is one of the world's largest exporters of crude oil and natural gas, and overtook Russia as Europe's biggest supplier of natural gas after Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, earning an estimated $170 billion more from oil and gas revenues than it did before the war. As well as being a major exporter of fossil fuels, Norway is also a big producer of hydropower, which it relies on predominantly for its own electricity. In fact, around 90% of Norway's total electricity comes from hydropower, and almost half of Europe's total reservoir capacity is in Norway. Norway also exports hydropower to the EU via electricity interconnectors to Denmark, the UK and Germany, and in the past few years this has increased significantly, with Norway overtaking France as Europe's biggest power exporter in the second half of 2020, before France regained its position in the first half of 2021. Despite this, over the past few years, energy has been a source of tension between Norway and the EU. That's because Brussels believes that Norway should keep exporting hydropower to the EU to help it through its energy crisis, while Norway believes that sending power to the EU is contributing to high energy prices in Norway. To clarify, in previous decades, Norway only sent electricity abroad after ensuring low prices at home first. But Europe's current energy crisis has meant higher demand for Norwegian hydropower to help balance energy prices on the continent. However, in mid-December, a lack of wind in Germany and the North Sea pushed up electricity prices in southern Norway to their highest level since 2009, and almost 20 times what they were the previous week, which Norway's energy minister bluntly called an absolutely shit situation. Anyway, this debate has been troubling the government for a few months now. Back in October, both Labour and the Centre Party voted to oppose the renewal of Norway's electricity interconnectors with Denmark, which are used to transport Norwegian hydropower to the EU. But the Centre Party wanted Norway to go even further, calling for Norway to reject the EU's energy directives, while Støre was pushing for Norway to adopt them. For context, the Centre Party has long opposed and successfully campaigned against Norwegian membership of the EU, and strongly criticises the EU's energy market rules, which dictate that, in order to access the EU single market as part of the European Economic Area, Norway must adopt most of the EU's energy laws and regulations. These include directives concerning renewable energy, energy efficiency, and the energy performance of buildings. This clashed with Labour's position, though, which is that Norway should accept the EU's energy directives as part of a general push to become more aligned with Europe, especially given geopolitical uncertainties and Trump's return to the White House. It was this EU-friendly approach that ultimately led to the Centre Party quitting Store's government, with its leader publishing a statement that said, instead of giving the EU even more power over Norway, we want to take back national control. So, after the collapse of the Labour Centre coalition, where does this leave Norway now? Well, Støre has put together a new cabinet, made up purely of Labour ministers, which plans to continue as a single-party minority government until the next parliamentary elections on September 8th. One new appointment, the surprise return of former NATO chief and ex-Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg as finance minister, has caught the most international attention. Stoltenberg's return has been viewed as a potential masterstroke in parts of the Norwegian and international press, thanks to Stoltenberg's domestic and international renown and the popularity that he enjoyed when he was Prime Minister, and the fact that he was regarded as the Trump whisperer during his tenure as NATO's head. Moreover, because Stoltenberg is a close personal friend of Støre, he's unlikely to try and upstage him, instead being more likely to bring Store's approval ratings up with him. In fact, there are already some early signs that the new pure Labour cabinet has had a surge in support, with one shock poll published last week showing Labour's polling jumping more than 10 points in a month to first place. And then another poll backed this up, showing them up more than 8 points and also reclaiming first place. So, can this last? Well, it's definitely given a major boost of much-needed confidence to Labour, and is a major break from the polling trends we saw through the back half of 2024. However, it's of course too early to say whether the so-called Stoltenberg effect will be a temporary phenomenon or a longer-lasting one. As some analysts have suggested, the Centre Party's withdrawal from government could well help its own polling too, as they may win back voters from the fellow Eurosceptic Progress Party. For Labour, though, it's a chance to reset as a purely Labour government, and an opportunity to appeal to other parties across the political spectrum to pass measures, including EU directives. Labour have made clear their intention to campaign on turning off the electricity interconnector to Denmark in 2026, but also improve cooperation with the EU, UK and Norway's neighbours on issues like defence and security, which does seem sensible given the current geopolitical environment and the fact that support for joining the EU is slowly rising in Norway. Ultimately, we're 7 months away from Norway's next parliamentary election, but as things stand, Store's Labour government might not be as done for as it previously seemed, which could be a little irritating for some on the political spectrum. But irritation is something that those of us who shave regularly are all too used to. After all, it's expensive, with brands selling overpriced razor cartridges filled with useless technology, and even if you do pay for all of that stuff, you're often left with a bad experience: razor burn, ingrown hairs, and irritation. That's a problem that Henson Shaving have aimed to solve with their razor, one that's actively designed to protect your skin. In fact, Henson razors are better for 3 reasons. Firstly, Henson's AL13 razor, which they produce at their aerospace machine shop, holds blades at a perfect 30-degree angle, extending the blade only 0.0013 inches past the shave plane. That's less than the thickness of a human hair, and ensures that the blade is supported properly, unlike many other companies' blades, which in turn makes sure that you have a far better shave for your skin. Secondly, they're just cheaper. Those fancy blade cartridges are full of single-use junk, which makes each individual blade vastly more expensive than it has to be. Henson's razor takes totally standard blades, which cost just a few cents, which means that you can save money and can afford to replace your blades more often, so that you don't need to keep dragging a dull razor across your face just to try and get value out of that overpriced plastic. Speaking of plastic, those other cartridges certainly aren't good for the environment either, with 2 billion razor cartridges thrown away every year in the US alone. That's not true of Henson's blades though, which contain 0 plastic, even in their packaging. If you want to try it out, then click the link in the description, add a razor and 100 blades to your cart, And then once you've done that, use our discount code TLDR at checkout and you'll get all of those blades absolutely free. Using our link and our code also means that they know that you came from us, which really helps us out.